Do you feel stiff, slow, and even weak? There's a better way to train. You need to build athletic muscle. Here's everything that you need to know to build athletic muscle. You might think it's easy to maintain that athletic edge, but just going out for a run once in a while, maybe you do sprints here and there, but it's not that easy. There's actually training that you can do to improve how your muscle grows, how your muscle functions so that it can coordinate at high degrees. So what the is athletic muscle? So some of you think that athletic muscle doesn't even exist, and you've even made videos about me making fun of me for having this concept. But what does the science say? Hammert et al. Actually just released a paper here in March of 2023 where they talk about super hypertrophic muscles, and that there's a point where super hypertrophic muscles, meaning very, very large muscles, have a period of potentially being dormant with how they're actually moving. So these muscles might not coordinate very well. They might not have the neural innervation to coordinate well, and they also might lack potentially a little bit of elasticity. And this would happen when there's a point of diminishing return, where we're getting too hypertrophic and not innervating as well as we possibly can from the right style of training. So does that mean that big muscles are bad? No, we know that large muscles can produce more power output. However, when we're developing these larger muscles, we just need to make sure that we're retaining that elasticity, that we're training properly, and we're doing athletic style movements to increase that power output, to increase that innervation, to increase that twitchiness that helps that muscle be more active, to help it coordinate at a higher degree, to help the actin and myosin link together. Again, large muscles are good. They can produce more power. It is just as important to train the muscle in an athletic manner. And that's going to take us to those 5 key aspects that you can use to make sure that you're more athletic. Plyometrics are going to be the golden ticket. They're gonna help you be more explosive. They're gonna help you recruit at higher speeds. It's gonna help you become more athletic. It's a very, very key factor to jumping higher, to running faster, to hitting harder. And that's the reason why you need to take 1 day a week to devote to these specific styles of movements, to these types of plyometrics. And that's gonna be that first key concept. Focus on 1 day, and that is gonna be Athlete Day. Athlete Day is an absolute must in the process of developing muscle. And that's exactly why we have that as a specific day inside of our app, Peak Strength. Head over to peakstrength.app, pick that up today. So Athlete Day is gonna have unilateral specific movements. It could be reflexive or plyometric. Something like this, where you're doing a skater squat with that heel unsupported, moving forward. Here, boom, come back, down, boom. Athlete Day should also have bilateral jumps like hurdle hops. Learn how to jump faster. And then you should also incorporate some type of jump series. That might be a hide and jump series. So it's here, boom, boom, boom. Okay, and you wanna do both sides. So when we're training on this Athlete Day, the first aspect is to just understand what types of movements we're gonna use to improve that neural speed. So quick recap, use Athlete Day to improve that athletic muscle. You wanna have unilateral plyometrics, we wanna have bilateral plyometrics, we wanna have jump series, we wanna use reflexive movements like that skater squat to a box, get creative, and then that's gonna take us into the next key concept, that second key that we're gonna use to become more athletic. So the next key concept is using technical coordination movements like a power snatch, a power clean, a behind the neck jerk, a 2-box clean to get everything moving. What we're gonna see is that when we use technical coordination movements, we learn how to accelerate a bar really, really quickly, but then we also learn how to fold and compress very rapidly in that catch. So DJ is gonna demonstrate with his glutes, with his really strong explosive back, his hamstrings, his hips, everything's gonna recruit at a very high speed. Go DJ. So he's gonna catch really well in that compressed position, but he's learning how to use those big muscles that he has at a very high speed. And that is how technical coordination exercises are gonna help you become more athletic. But what if we just want to use body weight? Let's talk about impulse and what impulse can do for firing that nervous system, for getting you to react quickly, and ultimately develop athletic muscle so that we have this crazy information superhighway going through these big swole guns to help you dominate your opponents and also be healthier. Impulse expression is extremely important, but we've also got to be able to recover to the best of our ability. That's why I recommend all of my athletes at Garage Strength using liver to optimize their overall performance, but it does taste pretty freaking chalky and a little bit gross. So let's get back to talking about impulse. Impulse is gonna be the movements or the exercises that get your body moving at crazy, crazy speeds. Okay, and when we're talking about impulse, the first aspect of impulse is gonna be blast impulse. Blast impulse is gonna be happening under a second, okay? It's that period of when we're running really, really quickly down a track. It might look something like this. Here, drop, boom, 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 boom. In real life, impulse might even be used if we're trying to save your kid from running out into the street. It's really about getting moving as quickly as possible. But when we're doing things like this, we also need to make sure that we're getting the right amount of vitamins and minerals. Despite the taste, liver is loaded with vitamin K, vitamin A, B vitamins, CoQ10, and all of these things can drastically improve your immune system. And fortunately, today's video sponsor, North American Herb & Spice, has put together their brand new product, Purely Liver, which makes it really easy to stomach that crazy flavor and to actually improve that overall recovery. Now, let's get back to some blast impulse training. In sports, blast impulse is gonna be coming out of the blocks as quickly as possible, throwing your hands on that opponent to try and get them off guard or just to knock them out. Or even if we're trying to implement a large amount of force in a very, very, very short period of time, let's say if we're trying to throw a discus or a shot put for distance. So theoretically, this athlete day workout is now started with that technical coordination exercise, 2-box power clean. Getting into a seated box jump, that's gonna be 2A, and you could do that for 5 sets of 3. And then 2B would be those depth drops into those mini hurdle hops, okay? So that would be 2B, let's say you do that for 5 sets, 1 time through that entire jump series. So those are those first 3 exercises on athlete day, but we also need to make sure we're recovering as well as we possibly can. To make sure that that recovery is on point, click the link down in the bio, head over to North American Herb & Spice, and at checkout, use the code GARAGESTRENGTH for 15% off your first order of these sweet liver pills. Now let's get back to making you an athletic freak. So what happens if we have something that is moving fast, but it's occurring a little bit longer than say a second or 2 seconds? How can we actually train that to improve that athletic capability that is longer than a second? That's where that third key concept is gonna come into play, and that's gonna be focusing on sustained impulse. Okay, so sustained impulse might be lasting around 5, 7, 8 seconds. Let's say you wanna come out of the blocks as quickly as possible. That's gonna be blast impulse, but those first 5 or 6 steps have to be extremely quick, and that's where sustained impulse could come into play. And we can focus on an exercise like this, doing a single leg squat unbroken. So we're here, that's gonna help improve our sustained impulse, which in turn is gonna transfer really, really well to the athletic world. So in life, when we have to deal with sustained impulse, that might be pushing a wheelbarrow for 10 to 15 seconds, or carrying a large amount of firewood for, again, 10 to 15 seconds to another spot. That's where we might see that in that general application. Now in sports, sustained impulse is gonna be when we see someone like a wrestler scrambling for 5 to 10, 15 seconds. Okay, that's gonna be that max amount. Or even if we're seeing a football player, blast impulse is taking that first step. Sustained impulse might be when the linemen make contact for about 2 to 4 seconds. And to be successful in that very short period of time, the football players need to be able to develop a large amount of force in a short period of time, but that might last around 2 to 4 to 8 to 10 seconds. So another great way, outside of training sustained impulse with the single leg squats that are gonna be unbroken, would be doing a longer jump series. And in this case, I'm gonna demonstrate a Jan jump series. So we're here, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. Okay, so that takes about 3 to 5 seconds to execute. And we're doing unilateral and bilateral. So that's gonna take us through this workout where we've got the 2-box power clean, the seated box jump, the mini hurdle series, and now for the sustained impulse, we're training that Jan jump series. So how can you maintain athleticism at peak power for a long period of time? And that's really where Power 15 Plus comes into play. We want to have that impulse expression that lasts longer than 15 seconds. So Power 15 Plus is being athletic, putting out a large amount of power over a time frame that's gonna last longer than 15 seconds. Okay, so when we're doing this over and over and over again, we need to make sure that we can pull from that impulse reserve. The more explosive we get in that 1 second or that half second, or the better coordinated we are in that sustained impulse, ideally the more we can put out that power output over 15 to 20 to 30 seconds, and that's where Power 15 Plus lives. So in life, it's important to be able to go out and shovel a sidewalk for about 30 to 60 seconds, let's say. Then you could take a little bit of a break. That's what I like to do. I like to see how fast I can do it in a really short period of time. Or if I'm raking leaves, same thing. I'll rake leaves all together as quickly as possible, and I'll play a game with my kids. That's where that Power 15 Plus lives. I'll even use this wild example. I'm pushing a wheelbarrow of chicken feed up our hill as quickly as possible. That's another place for life application of Power 15 Plus. Now in sports, that Power 15 Plus might be seen in a 30-second scramble on the wrestling match, or a volley back and forth on a tennis court. That might be done over 15, 25, 30 seconds of very, very high intense expression of power output. And we need to be able to train in this realm so that we can execute our technical skills at that very high speeds over a longer duration. So 1A is gonna be 2-box power clean, and we're gonna do that for 5 doubles, okay? That's the technical coordination exercise, 5 doubles. Then we get into the blast impulse training, seated box jumps, 5 doubles, and we're gonna superset that with those mini hurdle hops. That mini hurdle hop series we'll do over 5 sets. So we go back and forth for 5 sets. Then we're gonna get into the Jan Jump series. And if you don't wanna do the Jan Jump series, you can do those unbroken single leg squats, but make sure you're doing them about 50 to 60%, very light and unbroken. Okay, the Jan Jump series, you can do over 5, 6, 7 sets, focusing on quick reaction. And then finally, that Power 15 Plus, that's gonna be focusing on the sled push. Again, let's say we do 4 to 5 sets of 15 to 20 seconds of a rapid push. That's how we can finish up this entire day of athlete-based training. So training plyometrics can be pretty challenging, but that's exactly why we put together our app, Peak Strength. We use Athlete Day on day 3 of our 5-day week of training. You go into day 3 and you can start chipping away at becoming a little bit more athletic, making sure that the actin and myosin heads are actually coordinating together so that we can innervate well, have big muscles, and maintain that athleticism. So head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, or the Apple iOS Store so that you can begin your journey to attaining that peak strength. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.